Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the webinar today. My name is Davian, and I am an account manager for AMS, and I'm joined by my colleague Richard, who will be taking us through a demo of the software later. So a bit of background about AMS and who we are. We are a software distribution and support company, and our offices are situated in Bournemouth. We started off selling telex machines back in 1992, which then progressed into selling fax software solutions. As you can imagine, over the last few years, our portfolio has expanded, and we now offer a range of solutions, including document management and managed file transfer software, which we'll be talking about today. The NHS has been a big market for us, and we have an established customer base of over 30 NHS trusts, mainly through our fax software projects. So in today's webinar, I'll explain how we got to working with PACS, and some history about our managed file transfer software. We'll go through a traditional burn to disk process and what we can offer with a new approach. Rich will then take you through a demo of the software to show what it's like to use and how the PACS integration works. And we'll also explain how we protect patient identifiable data and go through the questions that have been typed into the questions box I mentioned earlier. So MFT came about because our clients were telling us they were concerned about the amount of information flowing in and out of the organisations, and they wanted greater control. With file sizes getting larger and restrictions on email attachments, users were finding other ways to share these files. The biggest concern we heard was that without a corporate solution, you didn't really know what was happening. There was no control, no audit trail, and users could be exposing the organisation to the risk of a data breach. Using FTP or manual sharing with USB sticks and CDs was also time-consuming and often needed help from IT. So we created Managed File Transfer. We had a good response when we showed it to our customers, and we've already got several public and private organisations using the software. And then we showed it to one of our trusts, and they asked us whether they could use it with their PACS system. So here's an example of a current PACS process. A user would search the PACS system for DICOM image files. There may be a need to add additional information such as patient notes. And then the user would either burn to disk via a machine such as Codonics or use a PC. Then the encrypted disk would be sent via post, courier or taxi. So some of the issues we've discussed are, and obviously there's a cost associated with the hardware, the consumables, and there's an administration overhead on the department. There's a lack of audit trail or monitoring and alerts, so it's hard to know what's been shared and when. Delays in delivery may mean information doesn't get to the recipient for a few days, and there is a potential for losing disks in the post. We actually had this situation happen to one of our customers recently, and a patient needed a scan for an appointment and the disk had gone missing in the post. So they asked us if they could use our MFT platform. Obviously we were keen to help, and they sent the information straight to the consultant there and then, as easy as it is to send an email. So this is what we're offering as a new approach. Click and share, with an easy way to add files from other sources and get all of that information to the recipient immediately, saving time to concentrate on the patient rather than administration. We've also been asked about anonymizing patient information, so we've made that as simple as selecting a tick box. By eliminating the hardware, we're eliminating the cost and the risk associated with sending physical media in the post. The new software also has notifications to let you know when the recipient has accessed and downloaded the files, and there's an audit trail you can refer back to at a later date. So now I'll hand over to Rich so he can take you through a demo of the software.
Okay, great. So I'm going to start off by showing you the PACS integration that's now embedded within our MFT desktop tool. And I've already got it installed in my system, so it's just sat there running in the system tray. And this app allows me to send any type of file to anyone. So that includes obviously DICOM images or DICOM directories. So to send a transfer, I just right-click on the app and hit send. And to attach files, I can either drag and drop files onto the interface, or I can browse the files. Another way of sending files is just by highlighting them. So I can send files or folders, and just right click and then select send to, and there's an option in there called MFT desktop client, and that will create a new transfer with the files attached. And obviously that works great if the files and folders that you need to send are on your workstation or already on your network. But if the images you need to send are stored away in your PACS server, it's not that effective. Obviously you need to then query your PACS and export them before you can attach them. So our new PACS integration allows us to query a PACS server directly. So to enable that functionality, all I need to do is go into my application settings and enable the DICOM feature. So I've already enabled it before, which is why I have to remember my settings, but it's pretty simple stuff. The remote host is normally the IP address of your DICOM server or PACS server, and then the server AE title and port number, obviously how we're going to communicate to that server. So let me just test that communication. That's great. So once I've saved that, once I've enabled that feature, the next time I create a transfer, you'll see there's an additional option in there now just called search for DICOM files. So if I click that, you can see I can search from patient ID and patient name. I'm just going to do a wildcard search on patient ID because I've only got a couple of patients in my sort of test pack system. And as I choose a patient, you can see in the second grid there, it shows me the different studies that I have for that patient. And to attach a study to a file transfer is as simple as just clicking on the study, and then I can hit add to file transfer. Now you see there's a couple of different options down here as well. So I've got the ability to anonymize the study as I attach it, so that removes any patient data or any doctor data that might be on the image. And I've also got the option to embed a DICOM viewer, which just makes it a little bit easier for our recipients to view those DICOM images that we're sending them. So let me just attach the last study that I have. When I've finished, you'll see in the attached files what it does. It creates one zip file that contains all the studies that I've selected, and also I've chosen to the embedded DICOM viewer. And to send this, all I need to do is just complete the rest of these transfer fields. So the to field obviously just determines who will be sending the file transfer to, and it just auto completes any contacts that I've sent to before. The subject and the notes field just make up the email notification that's generated for the recipients to let them know that I've sent them some files. So let me quickly fill this in. And there's an option to communicate a secure note. So anything I type in this secure notes field is going to be stored in an encrypted format on the MFT server and will only be viewable to the recipients once they've authenticated. So once they've either logged in or provided some secure code to access the transfer. The two other fields I've got are configurable by administrator, so you can kind of restrict what I can choose here and what I can see. But the access options we have available are login, open link, and token. And the access option really just determines what authentication is required by the recipients to view the transfer. So login means that recipients have to authenticate with credentials. Now, if they don't already have an account on the system, then the application recognizes that and automatically invites them, and then they just have to go through a self-registration process. Open link is a URL, so there's not a great deal of security behind it, but it does mean it's very easy for the recipients to view the transfer. They just click on the link and they're taken straight to that transfer. Anybody you share that link with will have access to that transfer as well. And then there's token, which means that the recipients have to first request a secure code before accessing the transfer. So I'm going to choose token so you can see how that works. The expiry date just really determines how long the transfer is valid for. And as soon as the transfer expires, what happens is the recipients can no longer access it. By default, the files associated with the transfer are also deleted off the MFT server. But the transfer and its audit history are maintained for obviously auditing purposes. I then obviously have the ability to attach any more files, so I'm just going to drag some instructions onto my attached files list, which just are instructions for my recipients of how to view the DICOM file. So just hit send, and I'm happy with that. And the upload's then offloaded to my transfer manager, and just because I've got the upload center open, obviously I can view its progress. But what's happening here is a transfer is being created on the MFT server. All the files that I've attached are being uploaded over a secure HTTPS layer, and they're being saved on the MFT server in an encrypted format. And once that's all happened, the MFT server will generate the email notifications for my recipients. So as a sender, there's a few other things I can configure. I can configure email alerts, for example, to let me know when somebody has accessed the transfer or downloaded a file. And there's a pretty nice web interface that I can use to track and monitor my sent transfers and even send new transfers. But at the moment, what I want to do is show you it from a recipient's point of view. So let me close this down and flick to my email. And what you'll see is I've received, as the receiver, as the recipient, I've received an email notification informing me of the transfer message. Now, other than obviously the subject that I've typed in the message, everything else in terms of the text, the colors, can all be branded and white labeled by an administrator. So we'd expect you to change the text, add your logos, and make it look and feel like the emails come from your trust organization. But let me click on download my files, and I'm taken to the client portal. And just like the email notifications, the client portal can be branded and white labeled to match your trust look and feel. But because I protected the file transfer with a secure code, as a recipient, the first thing I need to do is request that token. So let me click on that. And the message changes slightly just to let me know that a code is going to be emailed to me. So let me flick back to my email client, and hopefully in a moment I'm going to receive another email with a secure code on. There we go, which I just need to copy out and paste into the portal. And that's going to give me access to my transfer. So I can obviously see the message details, I can see my message, and I can also see the secure notes that were entered in. And then I can download the different files that are attached. So let me download my instructions first, which is just a PDF file just telling me how to view the DICOM images that have been sent. And once I've read that, I can then download the DICOM images themselves. So within this zip file, as I said, we're going to have the viewer, because I enabled it, and also the DICOM studies. And because it's in a zip file, we'll just have to extract it first before I can view it. But what's quite nice about the viewer that we embed is that it will automatically pick up on the series that have been included, so I don't have to browse them or anything like that. So let me just open that up. I said just extract it. And when I open up the viewer, it should preload all of the different patient and the studies that I selected. So let me open up these series. And then obviously I can flick between the different series or scroll between the different frames that were sent to me. The viewer that we embed by default also has some export options. So if I needed to send this on to somebody, to a different doctor, or to I don't know, a friend for whatever reason, then I can export them. Or if my machine had a CD-ROM or a DVD burner, then I'll be able to burn it to disk as well and share it that way. You don't have to use this viewer. You can use any viewer or viewers that you like. It's just a configuration, so we can bundle in the viewers that you prefer your recipients to use. That's not a problem. Alternatively, if you, I know some PACS teams don't even include the viewers, they just have some instructions like I did with just links on to download the different viewers from external parties. If you want to do something like that, or you did use instructions like I did, then we've got quite a neat trick, just so we don't have to remember to attach them each time. We can create a template, which is just like a base for our transfers. So let me open up the upload center again and go to templates. I can add a new template, give it a name, and you see that any of these fields that I fill in will just pre-populate the transfer next time I send one. So let me grab my instructions. Okay. And now the next time I create a transfer and choose that, it's pre-populated the fields, and obviously it's got my instructions already attached just to save time. And from a PACS point of view, that's the integration that we've got. But I do want to quickly show you the web interface from a sender's perspective as well, because it does allow you not only to send transfers from there and to receive transfers as you've seen, but also allows you to sort of monitor and track the progress of your transfers. We've got different types of authentication, so if you're in an Active Directory environment or Windows environment, then you can bypass this logon and be authenticated using single sign-on. But you can log in as I've done with a username and password. You'll see I can create transfers through the web. I can view any transfers that have been sent to me. But what I really want to show you is the sent item. So in there we can see the transfer I just sent. If I click on that, I can see what the recipient will see. So the message details, I can download the files that I'd sent as well if I needed to. We've got a full audit of the transfer, so this sort of shows everything that's happened in regards of building the transfer, sending notifications out, things like that. But what's quite powerful is the ability to recall files or share. So if, for example, I realize that I'd sent out the wrong instructions, then I can just recall those from the transfer. It just means the recipients are no longer going to be able to download those files. Likewise, if I realize I'd sent the transfer to the wrong individual, I can instantly see whether or not they've already viewed it, and I could track what they've done in terms of whether they've downloaded it. If they haven't, great. When I remove access, I know that recipient never got the files that I sent. So we can do that recall, which we could never do when sending a CD in the post or sending an email or something like that. And that's the web interface from a client's perspective. If you've got administration rights, then you can flick to the admin area. And there's a fair few options in here in terms of how to configure the system, create users, groups, and different configuration sets and things. But what I really want to show you is just some of the reports we have, because this gives you an idea of how everything's centralized, everything's in one place. So as an admin, I can delve into here and I can see everything that's being sent and received from my trust and my organization. So for example, as an admin, I can find the transfer that I just sent. I can view a report on the users, so the recipient or the sender. I can see exactly what they've been doing, when they've been logging on. I can view their other transfers that they may have sent or edit their account. But what I can also do is dive straight into their transfer as well. So if I actually wanted to see as an administrator what had been sent, then I can click on the transfer. I get the same options as you saw earlier in regards of the files, the shares, and everything like that. So as an administrator, I can recall shares and view the audit of the transfer and everything like that. So as I said, there's the other thing I guess that I should show is the compliance. So everything that happens within the system is recorded as an audit, and as an administrator, you can see everything within here. So we can kind of filter on events, when things are added, when things are deleted, and we get a real insight of what's happening with the files that we're sending and receiving. So as I said, there's a little bit more to it, but that's kind of what I wanted to show for this demo. So I'm going to hand back to Damien now to carry on with the rest of the presentation.
Great. And the next thing that we really like to do is we're just going to hold a quick poll. So we'd be keen to find out what you think would be the most valuable improvement for your department. The majority were looking to, or majority saw the improvement in the speed and reliability of delivery of the PACS images or the DICOM images is the most valuable improvement. So that's really helpful. Thanks for that. So security of patient identifiable data was obviously very important, and we worked really hard on the data encryption methodologies used in managed file transfer and the PACS integration. But I'll probably ask Rich to explain how that works.
Yeah, okay, sure. So as you can see, the data is encrypted both in transit and in rest. So in transit, obviously, when we're uploading the files or creating the transfer with any secure notes entered in, whether that's through the web interface or that's through the desktop tool that you saw earlier, that's all over HTTPS. So it's all over an SSL connection. So that normally would be a 256-bit encryption. And that's the same kind of encryption used when you log into your bank or something like that to manage your account. When we receive the data, when the MFT receives the data, we also encrypt it. So again, we encrypt it by default using 256-bit AS encryption with CRC padding, which is kind of the standard nowadays. But the important thing is obviously it's always encrypted, whether it's in transit or when it's at rest. The files are encrypted, and they'll stay that way until either the owner of the transfer deletes the file transfer, or the transfer becomes expired and it's automatically deleted.
Okay, great. Thanks for explaining that. Now, obviously, another important aspect is preventing against unauthorized access. So this is where Rich showed you the different authentication methods that we offer. So there was like an open link option for low security. There's a token method so that you get a secondary authentication code sent to your email account, and the highest level of security using the logon option. Now, the recall that we showed, or the recall feature that we showed, is a pretty key feature of what we're offering. Sending an email to the wrong person can be a bit of a nightmare that we've probably all experienced. And with normal email, the recall option relies on the recipient to accept your recall request. And realistically, you know, most people are going to take a look anyway. So unlike traditional email, what we offer with the software is the ability to remove access to the message and attachments without the need for them to agree to that. So even if a recipient receives a notification, they can't access the message or the files. We also offer managed file transfer with PACS as an on-premise solution, so that you have the reassurance that all of that information is secured within your network. And by avoiding the potential for lost disks, you're also minimizing the potential for a data breach. So a quick summary, a few points to remember. What we're offering is not just a PACS solution. Our software can be used by all users and all departments for exchanging any type of information. The software is easy to deploy, requires minimal management, and it's very simple to use. We already have the managed file transfer software being used by several NHS sites to send images and scans to a third-party contractor. And what we provide from AMS's side of things is full backup and support through scoping out what you need, installation and configuration, user training if required, and obviously future account management to make sure you get the most out of your investment. And if you're interested, we have a free trial available so you can test out the software in your own environment before you commit to spending any money. Okay, so the first question we've got here is, what is the licensing structure? So the way the managed file transfer software is licensed is you have a server license. So there is a single cost, and that's a perpetual server license. And we then have kind of 3 different user licensing options. So you have a professional sender, A professional sender is someone within the organisation who is sending out information to the recipients. You have a basic recipient. Now, basic recipients don't require a license. There's no cost for that, so you can send this information out to as many people as you like. And then we have a guest sender option. And the guest sender can then receive messages from your organisation, but they can also reply back with attachments as well. So all of those licenses are perpetual. Once you've bought that, you own it. The only ongoing costs then are support and maintenance. Okay, so I think we've got another question here. Is there a size limit on files sent, e.g. large CT and MRI studies? I'll have to ask Rich if he can maybe answer that one.
Yeah, of course. So the nice thing about MFT is there's no size limits. So the only size limits are what an administrator would configure on a group level. So the way that we work with this is, if you imagine if you're using the web interface, for example, to send the file, we have certain browser limits in terms of the file sizes that can be uploaded. And the way that we get around that is all the uploads are chunked. So it doesn't matter if you've got a 10 meg file or a 10 terabyte file. We break the file up, or we read the file into small little chunks and upload those chunks to the MFT server. There's been a lot of time spent on that upload progress, so it's very resilient. You can pause, resume the transfers. If you lose internet connection or you close the application down, then it will just carry on the next time it's launched and or regains an internet connection. So no, there's no file size limits other than what you configure.
Okay, and so we've got another question here. Do you have a fixed template for anonymizing DICOM files?
Okay, so at the moment the option to anonymize the DICOM files is just a checkbox, and you can set what the default is in terms of how that's checked, or whether it's checked or not. That goes the same for the DICOM viewer. Having said that, if you prefer a template, there's nothing stopping us adding that into the template screen. It wouldn't be a problem at all.
Okay. Now, we've got another question here. I think we've kind of covered it, but so maybe it was asked kind of in the middle of the webinar, but can recipients send files back? So yes, absolutely. This is a full two-way system, so it's a proper exchange information solution. So not only can you send files and secure messages to people outside of your organisation, but you can also receive them from external contractors, legal teams, or patients themselves. Now, here we go. Okay, so if we receive any images from the file transfer software, how easy is it to upload to our PACS system, and is this an option?
Okay, so in regards of receiving files, if somebody sent you a file, there's a couple of ways you could receive it. You could receive it, so you have an email notification, you click on it, you download the files, and then obviously you can attach them to your PACS system. The second is if you've got the desktop app installed, you can get notified and download the files that way. What we don't currently have is the ability for it to recognize it's a DICOM image and from that attach it to the PACS system. But the level of our MFT client or our DICOM integration or PACS integration would allow that. It just hasn't been designed yet. So it's certainly possible that we could push receive transfers directly from the MFT client into a PACS solution. It's just not an option at the moment.
No, and we've been talking about some options for automation, haven't we? So kind of capturing from a folder, so users can drag files into a folder, we can automatically capture that. And maybe that's an option as well for inbound documents, to kind of capture those to a directory that maybe could be imported to a PACS system.
Yeah,
I guess that's something we could investigate at a later date if that's important.
Absolutely, and a lot of our clients are already using some of the desktop tools to automate the sending and receiving of files, so we can have hot folders, if you like, that can either send files as you drop files or folders in there, or they can be folders that transfers automatically downloaded to, things like that. Also, there's a full API, so there's a RESTful API that can be used for any sort of bespoke integrations and things like that you may or may not want to do.
Okay, we've got another question here. What PACS systems does it work with?
Okay, so the technology to communicate to a PAC system in terms of pulling the DICOM image out or making requests for DICOM images is very standard. So we haven't come across a PAC system that it doesn't work with yet, put it that way.
Okay, no worries. And just a couple last ones we'll cover off before we kind of wrap up. Can the anonymization settings be edited?
Currently, no. So we will just rip out any identifiable information on there. I haven't been asked that before, so it'd be interesting if we could get a bit more information about that in terms of what they want to achieve on that. I guess maybe remove certain information, like just the patient information rather than the doctor information or something like that. But at the moment, it's an all or nothing.
Okay, no worries. Well, I guess Richard, we'll get in contact with you and maybe ask for a bit more information and see what we can do for you. And I think the last one before we finish up, receiving files, do you scan for viruses?
Yeah, absolutely. So all files that are uploaded from FT are scanned.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, well, there are a few questions that we haven't got to, but I think we need to kind of wrap up and finish up the webinar. So for those questions that we haven't answered, we will get back to you with a personal answer after the webinar. Okay, so here's a list of further resources that you might find useful. We've got some new videos and some supporting documentation on our website that you might want to take a look at. I really appreciate everyone's time today. If you think this webinar has raised some questions or uncovered something you want to discuss further, please contact your account manager directly, or if you don't have an account manager, please email the sales@ams-ltd.com address to arrange an initial call or meeting.